Hey everyone, welcome to our show. This is Entrepreneurship. My name is Curtis Brooks. Again, Entrepreneurship episode number 14. Today we are talking about the master needs a coach. I had to look at my paper here, but that is the title of our show, The Master Needs a Coach. And if you'd like to get in contact with us, you can reach us at our email address. That's going to be bookme@imcurtisbrooks.com. Again, that's bookme@imcurtisbrooks.com. Once again, we're talking about when the master needs a coach. And in this show, I will cover three portions or three segments or ideas that it's something for you to consider. Again, we're talking about when the master needs a coach here on Entrepreneurship, episode number 14. We're going to start out counting the costs. Whenever you build something, it's important to count the costs. And it's kind of crazy to start something or project without knowing how much is going to be involved in it or how much is going to cost for, again, preparation, your product, your supplies. All those things are absolutely important. But many times as entrepreneurs or an individual with an idea that's planned to do wonderful things, to plan to take on the world and plan to change some things about their situation or help others change some things about their life or decisions that they've made, even as a coach, a transformational speaker, it's important to count the costs. And as we desire to get into our work again and helping others, a lot of times we don't count the costs. And including me, I've been in a place where I have not counted the costs, where I've started a project. I was so eager about it and believed I could help others and believed I could do wonders and change the world in my own little space, if you will. But I forgot to count the costs. Nor had I considered about counting the costs in regards to what is it going to take for the upstart of my business? What is it going to take as a whole for just to get this business off the ground? Not only just the upstart of the business, but what is it going to take for the preparation mentally and physically and emotionally? What is it going to take? So in this show, we're going to touch bases on counting the costs. What does it take to get your business off the ground, get your ideas off the ground? The idea is wonderful, but there's a cost that's involved in it. It's not necessarily just financial, and those things are absolutely important because they're definitely a factor. But there's a cost that we will need to pay emotionally and physically. And as an entrepreneur, and you may know yourself, experience exhaustion. You may experience fatigue in different ways, mentally, emotionally, and physically. But again, counting the costs. How many of us will factor the emotional, the physical, the mental toll that it takes on us? Again, this is not to get you thinking about, do I really want to become an entrepreneur? It's not to shed light on the doom and gloom of it, but it's to really to get you in a place where you're thinking about it, where you're counting the cost, where you're factoring that in. Because truly, if you have not come to a place where you're exhausted with your situation and you're really wanting to change your situation, not just, oh, I'm so sick of this situation, I just really need to change it. Oh, no, you have to be to a place where your soul is sick, if that's such a thing, where you're just exhausted mentally, physically, and emotionally, where it just takes it's just a burden on your soul to carry such a weight, and you really are in need of changing your situation. Think about it, guys. That's to the level where you begin to count the costs. That's to the level where you begin to consider certain things. Because if you can't handle the situation that you're in, perhaps you're working a 9 to 5 or a 10 to 6 or doing some kind of shift work. If you can't handle the place that you're in right now, then entrepreneurship may not be for you. But if you can handle the place that you're in, but yet at the same time, you are desperate about changing your situation, that you want more out of life, then entrepreneurship is for you. Again, all right, we are back here and trying to make some things here. It's kind of a one-man show here, but nevertheless, you have to be absolutely exhausted as a employee, if you will. You have to be absolutely exhausted as an employee. And it's important that if you have not arrived at that place, if you have not arrived at that place of just sheer exhaustion, again, not in the sense that you can't do your job, but in a sense where I'm ready to change my situation, you're ready to change your situation, then entrepreneurship is for you. Again, my point of this show or this topic here is not to alarm you in a way that, well, I want to change your mind. No, absolutely no. Absolutely not. The point of this show is to bring light to what it takes to become an entrepreneur. Bring light that when people are wanting to become entrepreneurs, and we all will get to a place where we're doing it for many different reasons as to why we want to create our business, start our own business. But before you step out there, count the costs. Counting the costs is going to include your family. What's your take? What's your family's take? Are they in on this plan or this idea with you starting your business? Because as you count the costs, you've got to consider the support. That's absolutely essential. It's not that it's impossible, because in some instances, we may not have the support, or at least believe that we have the support. So that's the reason why it's so important to reach out to those who are doing the same thing you're doing, and where they can be a support factor. Again, that's the reason why networking is so important. And networking has absolutely some wonderful benefits. But again, it's part of counting the cost. Because as life hands to us different situations, each of us, it may not be, or we may not be in a place where we have the support. But in your heart, you're exhausted to the point where you're ready to change your situation. You're not just saying a place, well, I want to work my own because I get the freedom to do what I want to do. Because truly, no one has that freedom as of yet. Because even as an entrepreneur, you're still answering to someone, your client, your customer. Your client, your customer have needs. So you're going to have to, again, in the same fashion that you are working that job, 9 to 5, making sure that you earn time, responding to the customers that are in that 9 to 5 job that you're working on, responding to those customers within that current job that you're on right now, those clients. You're still going to have to carry that same manner and that same attitude. But at this time, you don't have a boss over you, if you will. And I use that real loosely because your customer, your client, in fact, is your boss. And I guess what I mean is that as an employee, you may have a supervisor, but now as an entrepreneur, you are really in a place where you are missing that supervisor. You are the supervisor. You are the person who will do the laundry, or if it needs to be, if you've got a business where you offer a service and you have uniforms. So many instances, you are the do-all. You are the person with all the answers. And what happens when we have counted the cost and we still don't get what we asked for, that's a time where we go back to the drawing board. And the title of this show again is When It's Too Big, or at least the subtitle is. And it's interesting because I thought about earlier how when a cake is made, it requires different ingredients, obviously, and depending on what kind of cake you're making, it definitely will require different ingredients. But it's interesting because even the crumbs of that cake have the same ingredients as if you're looking at the entire cake. To the smallest piece is to factor, and that small piece has the very crumbs that really, or the very ingredients that make up that entire cake. And so often, we as entrepreneurs or individuals who are aspiring to have their own business, we see the $1 million idea or the $1 billion idea or this idea in our own mind that's going to make a lot of money. And we can see ourselves or visualize ourselves doing the things that we want to do or are desiring to do. But do we quite understand that even the minute of details, or that crumb, if you will, that is an extension of that cake, that entire cake that you made, or the very idea that's an extension of a larger idea, it still is a piece of what you are desiring, but it still has the same ingredients in it. And so often as entrepreneurs, or again, those individuals who are desiring to have their own business, we want to skimp on the ingredients, if you will. We see the larger picture, or again, there was a larger business that's doing very well at an idea that they've put together. And yet, in our minds, we want just a piece of it, just a piece of it. But so often we forget, even in the crumb that extends from that bigger idea, or the crumb that falls from the table, from the entire cake, we forget that the crumb has also the very details or the same ingredients that make up the whole. That idea that you're saying, hey, I'm going to change this idea. That idea that they're doing is wonderful, but I'm going to change my idea just a little bit, just tweak it a little bit. But so often in our tweaking, we forget that from the crumbs come or are included all of the major ingredients that made up the whole. And so when we don't get what we want, or at least feel that we've received what we've asked for, even after we've counted the cost, it's important to know that even the crumbs, even your idea, as it may be an extension of a larger idea, or the crumbs that fall from the cake, have all the necessary ingredients of the larger picture, or the larger idea. So it's important to go back, look at your ingredients, look at the cost, and again, what are you willing to put into this idea that you may have? What are you willing to produce with your idea? And again, a lot of us think that, I'll take a larger idea and spin it this way and do this and do that. But the reality of it is that even from the larger ideas, to take a small piece of it is to understand that that very small piece includes the very ingredients, as detailed as they are. Those same ingredients come from the whole, the larger picture. And sometimes as we're aspiring to be business owners or do our own thing, we've got to really look at the bigger picture. And if it means breaking segments of the bigger picture down to bite-sized pieces, if you will, again, still factoring in that even in bite-sized pieces, they come from a larger picture, a larger chunk of it. And we've got to get in there, dig in there, get the details, begin to question certain things. How did you do this? Talk to those individuals who are doing it and have done it. Know what the cost is so that when you're not getting what you asked for or what you've worked for, again, after you put it all together and you counted the cost, know and rest assured when it doesn't appear to look like what you've asked for, go back to the drawing board. Don't be afraid to go back to the drawing board, because that's some of the biggest challenges that even large companies have, let alone us as individuals, is the fear of just, or at least believing that, okay, well, if I go back, thinking that if I go back, it's taking me backwards. It's a step backwards in the wrong direction. But that's wrong thinking, because we'll take a break. We'll be right back. All right, we are back. Again, that is wrong thinking. Sometimes our thoughts will take us to a place where we are, again, thinking that if I admit that something is wrong, it's a weakness. But no, think about it, guys. The best leaders are the individuals who will consult with others. As we are actually in the last quarter, if you will, of our show here, is that, think about it now. As we are focused, or at least trying to get to an objective, and that is to get your business off the ground, you've counted the costs, you now are looking at a very picture of what you are desiring. It's important to know that the next step is that we are to understand that as we have mastered certain things, as we have come into the know of certain things, we can say in our minds that, okay, I want just a piece of this larger pie, if you will, just a small piece. And again, as I've discussed before, is that even for the larger piece, it's important to know the details. The same details that it takes to make the larger piece are in the crumbs, the small piece of it. So as we're aspiring to say just, I want just a small piece of what they're doing, I can change how the industry looks at a certain service or product. I can do it differently. Understand that, and now doing it differently, we've got to be mindful, again, that those same ingredients that are in the larger piece are in the small piece that we are desiring. So it's important to know the details that are placed in the larger piece. Those same details are in the small segment of that industry that we're desiring. Think about it. So as we're trying to become masters of our industry or the service that we're offering, know that the coach needs a coach. And back to just momentarily, back to the segment that you are trying to cover. It's many pieces, several different pieces. And sometimes those pieces are disguised by names, different names. I'm a transformational speaker. One is a motivational speaker. But nevertheless, Different names, perhaps the same piece. And it's important to know, even as we're desiring to take on a small piece, the nature of human beings, us as human beings, is progress. And anything that becomes stagnant over a period of time, eventually it grows a kind of a putrid smell to it. So progress is absolutely important. And as we head towards our services or products that we offer and become masters and become skilled at what we do, remember, the master needs a coach. Life is about progress, moving forward in many different capacities. And sometimes we can, again, be just nearsighted, if you will, focused on one item, and yet life can be calling us in so many other different directions. So your business now is successful in this area, but you've got another idea and you want to take your business yet in a different direction, or an extension of what you're already doing, add a different idea or concept to what you already have in place. So it's important to know that even the coach needs a coach. No one is ever going to be a master of everything to the point where they know everything. And there are individuals out there that will have a piece of the very thing that you and I need to take our business, our service, our product into the next realm, into that next level. And that's why it's important to remember that the coach, the master, needs a coach. When it becomes to a place that it's too big, and rest assured, the very piece that you're desiring to take hold of, that service, that product, that industry that you were wanting to change and be a mover and shaker, the very crumb that you're asking for, that piece of real estate that you're desiring within that industry, that service, it requires the very same detail as the picture, the larger picture, if you will. Let's remember that. The same detail that it takes to build a large company, a corporation, is the same detail that it takes to build a small business. And for us, again, as human beings, we're about progress. No one likes a company or individual who just sits still, who just remains where they are, even in a relationship. Something has to change at some point. Life is about change, about progress. So let's remember, as we are moving forward in our goals and achieving those short and long-term goals or plans that we may have, it's important to know that even the master needs a coach. Even the master needs a coach. You've counted the costs. And interesting enough, that even as we've counted the costs, there's a guarantee that something is going to be left out. As we grow our business, our service, our product is falling off the shelves and people are buying it. Hey, I like what you're doing, Curtis. I like what you're doing. Remember, it's important that as we're moving forward, getting to one level, to the next level, and then to the next level, even the master needs a coach. Because as people, let's face it, we're complicated. And there's someone in a space where you're wanting to go, where you're desiring to take your business. There's someone already in that space. And you want to get there. So it's important to remember that even the master needs a coach. There comes a time where the master has perhaps come to a place where he knows, or she knows and understands where they're at right now. But now, through the fact that because we are human beings, we're about progress. All of us are. Or at least that's where we should be. Because we are established in a fashion because we desire progress. You're now desiring to take your business, your service, your product to the next level. And you don't quite know how to get there. But rest assured, there's someone else that does know how to get there. Someone else that has the key or piece to the very puzzle that you and I are trying to put together. You need one more ingredient. And that really is kind of tricky in itself, because the fact is that after you get the one ingredient, you're going to need yet another ingredient. So as we make our way into entrepreneurship, make our way as we are selling our services, producing products, let's remember to first count the cost. It's important to remember that. Factor in those things not only financially, but factor in those things emotionally. Because through our endeavor to achieve and again to move forward in our lives, again to take hold of new ingredients that's going to enrich our lives, if you will, it's important to remember that it's essential for us to, again, move forward, count the costs, know that when you don't get what you ask for, you've got the recipe right in front of you. Look at the recipe. Look at the details of that larger piece, if you will. And there are plenty of examples out there. Plenty of examples. So again, know that when you don't get what you ask for, go back to the blueprint. Look at the details of it. Ask questions. And finally, when it's too big, recognize, remember that even the master again, as we are wrapping up here, recognize, a final thought, recognize and remember, even the master needs a coach. Because life is about progress. Life is about moving forward. Whether you're playing sports, whether you're desiring to own a business, become your own boss, life is about progress. And when we're not making progress as people, it doesn't matter who you are. When we are not making progress in life, it has a tendency to put, or at least appear to put, everything else in a hold in our lives. So, again, count the costs. Know what it's going to take to get your business off the ground, to make that cake, to purchase that property, to start that business, whatever you're desiring to do. Count the costs. And when you're not getting what you asked for, don't be afraid to look at the blueprint again. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of maturity and growth when you can go back to the plan and say, where did I go wrong? And in fact, that may be the biggest thing or decision that you've made. That is to go back to the plan and reconstruct, reconfigure some things, tweak some things again. And finally, when it's too big, recognize that even the coach needs a coach. Ask questions. Hire a coach if you need. All right, guys, we are going to wrap it up here. We're looks like we're actually past our time here. Again, my name is Curtis Brooks. To get in contact with me through my email address, it's going to be bookme That's BOOKME at IamCurtisBrooks.com. Again, that's IamCurtisBrooks. Book me at IamCurtisBrooks.com. Our website is going to be www.IamCurtisBrooks.com for more information about me and what I do here as a transformational speaker and a entrepreneur coach. And finally, before we wrap it up here, I have a project that I'm working on, and I would like for you guys to support me, all those who are viewing and like to know more about me. Again, I have a project that I'm working on, and I have not yet titled it as of yet. That's my next step here. But nevertheless, I'm working on affirmation cards and a journal to complement those affirmation cards. So it's going to be powerful, some great affirmation that's going to, again, enhance the very goal and plans that you have for your organization or even personally in the way of personal development. And those affirmation cards are going to be absolutely wonderful. And again, I will give you more information about those items that I am working on currently. And we will be doing a pre-order soon here. And again, in the next coming episodes, I will let you know more about them. And as we are underway and progressing, moving forward with those plans there, we'll let you know more about those affirmation cards and the complimentary journal that comes along with it. So again, my name is Curtis Brooks, and this is Entrepreneurship, episode number 14. And the title of the episode is The Master Needs a Coach When It's Too Big. We'll see you on next week, Tuesday, guys, episode number 15. We don't quite have a title yet, but we'll get there, and we'll see you next week. Oh, and by the way, before we wrap it up here, I am going to change the time of the show because it conflicts with what I have going on earlier. And it's about being consistent, and that's really important. So again, I will be changing the show time to 11 a.m. Central Time. And again, still half hour, so 11 a.m. Central Time, Tuesday and Thursday, 11 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Tuesday and Thursday Central Time. Okay, we'll see you guys on next week, Tuesday at 11 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Central Time. Entrepreneurship, episode number 15. Ciao.